Today we are going to take a brief look at St Aubin's Bay, its history and what a beachgoer can expect to find. St Aubin's Bay is the large crescent indent in Jersey's south coast. It runs from St Helier in the east through the parishes of St Lawrence and St Peter and ends at St Aubin's in the west in the parish of St Brelard. And just to clarify, 10 of Jersey's 12 parishes are named after saints, but St Aubin's isn't a parish but an area within the parish of St Brelard. This wide sweeping bay is about 3 miles around and has a certain symmetry in that there is a town, large offshore fortification and harbour at either end. Originally dunes marked the boundary between land and shore, but as the island was developed, particularly in the mid-1800s, the line between beach and land was more clearly defined, and gradually seawalls were constructed, allowing areas of foreshore to be reclaimed as land rather than beach. In 1870, the Jersey Western Railway began a train service between St Helier and St Aubin's, and in 1894, with the building of the sea wall between Belroyal and West Park having allowed a large area of foreshore to be reclaimed, the States had Victoria Avenue constructed on the land. St Aubin's Bay had for centuries been a place for shipbuilding, and particularly in the 1800s was the home to a number of shipyards. The bay's sheltered position and gently shelving beach allowing the vessels to be built on the high water mark. And these weren't just small fishing boats, but huge ocean-going ships weighing hundreds of tons and noted for their superior design and build quality. In the 1780s, 3 of Conway's towers were built in the bay, 2 of which survive, and during the German occupation of 1940 to 45, a series of defensive bunkers were built along the seawall, while slipways were either blocked or destroyed. When air travel first came to the island, the area of hard, flat beach at West Park was used as a landing strip, providing the tide was out, and Jersey Airways operated from here in the 1930s until a proper airport was built in St Peter's in 1937. Well, that's a glimpse of St Aubin's Bay history, but what will a visitor or beachgoer find today? To start with, there is plenty of parking. A series of car parks runs parallel to Victoria Avenue between West Park and Belroyal, and there are several more car parks running on towards St Aubin's. Off-season, much of the parking is free, but in summer months it's often paid. There are also plenty of public toilets around the bay, which can be found at West Park, First Tower, Millbrook, Belroyal, Bowmore, La Hole and St Aubin's. The railway that used to run around the bay ceased trading in 1937, and the land it once occupied is now home to a pedestrian promenade and cycle track. These areas are all paved, so whether walking, cycling, rollerblading or pushing a pushchair, travel is smooth and easy. For the fitness-minded, there is a trim trail running around the bay, with a series of basic gym equipment stationed at intervals along the route. There are also plenty of food outlets dotted along the path, some in historic buildings. The old station cafe at Millbrook is just that, a former railway station, as is the Outlook Cafe at First Tower. And the Gunsight Cafe at Bowmore is, surprisingly enough, an old German gun emplacement. There are also food outlets at La Hole, 2 kiosks at Belroyal, and another between First Tower and Millbrook. There are also a series of small pavilions at intervals around the bay, which provide seating and shelter from either sun or rain. And there are plenty of benches for the weary traveller or those who just want to sit and admire the view. There are also plenty of cycle racks stationed around the bay, so there is always somewhere to leave your bike. The beach itself varies hugely as the bay is traversed. The sand between West Park and First Tower has a tendency to stay damp throughout the day, which can make some bathing uncomfortable, but the expanse of flat, hard sand is ideal for sports and game playing. The area from First Tower westward halfway to Millbrook is mostly heavy shingle, and although fine for dog walking, isn't much use for beach activities. However, once the shingle stops, most of the rest of the beach has very fine, almost powdery white sand. The bay is very shallow sloping, which means that the water doesn't get deep quickly, so it's ideal for toddlers and paddlers. It also means that the water tends to be warmer than most of the island's other beaches. But that too means that the sea can go out a long, long way, so swimming isn't practical at some stages of the tide. Several of the island's freshwater streams make their way to the sea down this beach, but at First Tower there is also an outlet where the island's treated water is discharged into the sea. Jersey has the most up-to-date treatment plant, the wastewater even being subjected to ultraviolet light to ensure that any pathogens are destroyed, and the purity is said to be that comparable to the quality of drinking water, not that you want to try it. But the discharged water has a high nitrate content that acts as a plant fertilizer, and the shallow, warm waters and gentle tide movements in the bay mean that sea lettuce, or kyock as it is known locally, can grow rapidly, leaving the sea shallows an unappealing soup and the beach a green, slimy expanse. At its worst, large piles of rotting seaweed can make the beach virtually unusable. It is a problem that has dogged this bay for years, and occasionally the authorities have resorted to loading the offending seaweed onto lorries and tipping it at the low water mark, a futile exercise as the tide returns it to the top of the beach with the next tide. St Aubin's Bay is used for a number of sports. There's usually a volleyball net set up at Beaumont. Jet skis can be hired at La Hole, and Hobie cats use the bay to race in. The beach itself is huge, so there's plenty of room for everyone, whether it's building sandcastles, topping up a tan, or kicking a ball around. It's ideal for paddleboarding and water skiing, and in the winter months is popular with wind and kite surfers. And although the beach is no longer used as an airfield, you can never be sure who might drop in. So to sum up, on the downside, for more adventurous children, this beach can seem a little dull. There are no rocks to climb, no rock pools to explore, and if the tide is out, swimming is impractical. And in the summer months, if there's seaweed about, St Aubin's Bay simply isn't a nice place to be, especially when you know that Jersey has a variety of other beaches only a few minutes away. However, this beach still has many good points. The promenade around St Aubin's Bay is a good place to visit at any time of the year, whether it be for a gentle stroll, a run with friends, or a cycle ride with the kids. There are always toilets nearby and a good variety of food outlets on hand. The flat, even beach is large enough to accommodate almost everyone, and is particularly good for the sporty types, whether it be to play football, throw a frisbee, fly a kite, or play cricket. The beach is also very safe for children, especially babies and toddlers, even though there are no lifeguards here. It's ideal for building sandcastles, and when the tide is in, the water is shallow and usually calm. There is parking close by, and for those who enjoy sunbathing or lazing with a book, this beach is for you. I hope you've found this both interesting and informative. If so, click the like button. And to see more of our Jersey related videos, please click subscribe. I'm Richard, and this is brought to you by Jersey, a Guide.